The Christians stole our holiday. Christmas is straight up pagan. Greetings, my name is Blaze and welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I talk about thought, theory, and my interpretation when it comes to things that I'm interested in. Now, the beginning statement I said at the beginning of this video is a statement I actually don't agree with. I said it to catch your attention, so hopefully you want to stick around and hear why I don't agree with that statement. It's something that I hear quite often. I want to start out by saying, though, I'm not an expert. I don't have a doctorate or anything. I just research this stuff on my own, and this is just my opinion. So take it for what it is, but by all means, join in the conversation below and put your comments and your thoughts after the video. I feel like I hear many revivalists today constantly talk about how the Christians stole their holidays, that Christianity has pagan DNA and all this other type of stuff. I hear this regularly, especially when it comes to holidays. So we're fast approaching what the Christians celebrate, Christmas. And everyone's talking about, oh, well, all their traditions and their tree and everything else, it's all pagan and it comes from pagan origins and blah, 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 and it's ours and they stole it from us. I think we're missing a very important fact. They didn't steal anything from us. It belongs to them too. And this is what I mean by that. When it comes to any sort of tradition, I don't care if it's the tree or garland or singing or different types of stuff that you cook or bake. If you go around the world, the way that individuals do Christmas, it is vastly different in each of the regions. When Christianity was first created and invented and made up, and it started spreading around, people had cultural traditions that were important to them. When they tried to push for celebrating Christmas and different types of practices, it was actually, as I understand it, so my grandfather was Orthodox, and he used to celebrate Christmas based upon the old Julian calendar, so it was closer to actually, I believe it was closer to January that he celebrated it in. And it was actually moved closer to the solstice because many places around the world had traditions for the winter solstice, which is actually usually around the 21st of December in the Northern Hemisphere. So the traditions that they do with these trees and these decorations were cultural traditions that belonged to these people that chose to convert to Christianity. So it's not that they stole the modern revivalist pagan movement stuff. Instead, it was people hanging on to their own culture and heritage that belongs to them. It belongs to everyone. It belongs to the people of that culture. That's why, I mean, if you go to these different countries and you visit them during Christmas time, it's going to have some slight variances based upon that culture and tradition because it belongs to that culture. So to say that they stole paganism bothers me. I don't like hearing that. I understand why people are trying to say that, and it's kind of a fad to say that, like, oh, yeah, I've converted to paganism, because in many cases, most people today are not raised as pagans. Yes, I know folks are, and I know it still exists, but most of it is revival movements. It is an attempt to reconnect with the past. I go over this in detail in other videos. But individuals that were either, especially in today's day, you might be like second generation or third generation with some of these traditions and these revival movements, maybe a little bit further back. But you got to remember, a lot of folks are converting from Christianity over into paganism, and those are the individuals I usually hear shouting the most about how their people were robbed of their traditions and culture and stuff. I have an issue with Christmas. I don't celebrate it. It doesn't mean anything to me. I literally sit here on the 25th. I've had a friend, a coworker at work, who we were talking about during that time period, because a lot of businesses in the U.S., it's like Christmas, and he had confided in me that he was Jewish and he doesn't celebrate Christmas. And I was like, yeah, I don't celebrate Christmas either because I'm not a Christian. And I talked about one of the traditions me and my wife have. We'll go get Chinese food and watch a movie. And he's like, hey, that's the Jewish tradition. That's what we do here as well. So it was kind of comical to kind of joke about that, about the fact that, yeah, there's nothing that we're doing on that day. It doesn't mean anything to us. So we're building this new tradition of, hey, everything's closed, we're going to do anything. And other people do it as well. So it's not a Jewish tradition necessarily. It's just folks that don't do Christmas. Maybe it's a tradition for many people. And I think that's what it comes back to when it comes to decorating the tree and things like that, is in their traditions, I believe the older references that I was able to find had to do with like the Germanic tradition. So yes, you're getting into the Nordic, Scandinavian type of Viking era type of traditions when you talk about decorating the tree and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's people trying to enjoy the season. That is one way that they were able to convert folks over to Christianity, is let them keep their family traditions. So if anything, it's stuff that is living through the conversion to Christianity versus stealing it from paganism. I would almost argue, even though folks say that Christianity has pagan DNA, paganism, heathenism has Christian or monotheistic DNA too. When you look at the regions that have these polytheistic, pagan, heathen type of revival movements or traditions that they're trying to revive, a lot of them converted over to Christianity. So Christianity is going to base its spirituality and different types of practices based upon the cultures and regions that are being converted. People are going to keep that stuff alive. So how do you be religious and spiritual? Okay, this is how I be religious and spiritual. I'm just going to apply a new name to it. There's going to be that little mixing that happens. So yes, I completely agree that Christianity has pagan DNA. I think that's fact. That's my opinion. However, as we try to revive a lot of these old traditions, we have pieces, they're scattered about. A lot of the writings were done by individuals who were Christian that were still in love with their pagan past, that wanted to bring it forth into the future or write down stories and inspire us. So then when you try to start doing these revival movements, you are picking out pieces from Christianity and trying to pick out those pagan origins and roots. But there's going to be some inspiration and some influence and some mixing from Christianity. And let's face it, at the end of the day, you can look back at the old pagan heathen traditions or cultures that folks used to do in like the European region, and some of their practices is not stuff we want to do today. So we're picking and choosing. We're not fully reviving it. We're making it a modern revival thing. It is neo-paganism. Whereas with Christianity, it also had a very brutal start. They were killing and slaughtering and burning people that weren't part of their faith. It was very cruel. That's not the way most Christians are today. Yes, there's some messed up Christians today. I get that. But I've met a lot of Christians that are genuinely really good people and use it as a moral compass. It is not bad to have morals. So when folks start arguing and fighting over where things came from, I think it's an unnecessary friction that folks are building with each other. And as I was mentioning earlier, I personally have a problem with Christmas because I don't want to be associated with it. I don't want to be associated with Christianity. And honestly, it feels no different than some of the Christians that are be like, well, I don't want to be associated with paganism or any of these winter solstice stuff, and they try to distance themselves from that. It puts a wedge between us unnecessarily. There's so much more that we can get along with. At the end of the day, we all want to, I hope all of us want to be good people and treat each other with respect, compassion, and understanding. And if we can approach it from that and stop fighting and bickering over the details of what came from where, that's history. Let's think about today and the future that we're trying to forge together, not only with our fellow practitioners, but our fellow human beings from any walk of life, from any tradition. So if you can, and I know some of you have, and a lot of you do because I've seen you put it in the comments, try to embrace moving forward in a positive way and influence. That's why I don't understand why people get so mad when folks say happy holidays. They're trying to be all-inclusive. There are so many different traditions and holidays that happen in December. It is not just Christmas, and I understand the frustration. Again, one of the reasons I have a problem with Christmas, everyone's like, Merry Christmas. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, they just want everyone to have a Merry Christmas specifically, but you don't typically hear other individuals announcing their holiday and their traditions and stuff. So that's just a few ramblings, rantings, and food for thought. What do you think of Christmas? Does it have pagan DNA? Do you really think it was stolen from the pagans? And you're allowed to. It's okay to think that way. I just don't. Do you think that folks really should be arguing and debating over this, or should we just accept each other and move on? So anyway, thanks for watching. Consider thumb up, liking, and subscribing, and more videos coming your way. Remember, question everything.